And welcome to the United Silent Majority. This is Dustin. Sorry for the delay, but good things come to those who wait. At least that's what Heinz Ketchup told us back in the 80s and 90s. You know, we live in a world full of problems, big ones and small ones. But honestly, I believe a lot of these issues can be healed faster than we think. We spend so much time worrying about labels and other factors that divide us instead of what unites us. And we need to focus more on that. You know, and that's what this Saturday is all about. Finding a way to unite people. And what better way to unite people than feeding your belly? Eating some soup and hanging out with the people in your neighborhoods. And that's the goal of what's going to happen Saturday between 4 and 7 p.m. Now, as you guys know, I've been posting a lot about this, but I will tell you again the 3 locations. The first one in Bellefontaine is Wake Up the World Ministries at 600 East Brown. Santa Tyler will be there, along with Charmin Weeks Photography. The next Bellefontaine location is Need More Massage at 466 County Road 11 here in Bellefontaine. Santa Tim will be there with timeless rose images, getting the pictures of the kids with Santa. And up at the Galilee Lutheran Church in Russell's Point, we will have Santa Eric and photographs by C&P Photography. Now, as a reminder, these pictures will be free. Digital copies will be sent to you through email, free of charge. Just show up with your kids and get some pictures with Santa. It's going to be a good time. Now, we have kids there, so the location up at Russell's Point, Galilee Lutheran, they will have pizza supplied to them graciously by Padrones of Lakeview. Now, the other 2 locations in Bellefontaine will have hot dogs for the kids. We're going to have snack chips and stuff like that. So there'll be plenty for your kids to snack on while they're there to see Santa Claus and get their pictures. We're also going to have, thanks to the Fun Company, some packets made up and donated for the kids to use. I think crayons and stuff like that, activity book, stuff to keep your kids engaged and having fun and give you a chance to relax as mom or dad while your kids are enjoying themselves, which as a parent, we know those times can be few and far between. So I'm looking forward to meeting all of you Saturday. There's going to be 3 different locations, as we said. I will be roaming between all 3. We've had a tremendous amount of volunteers that are going to be working 3 locations. Wonderful job. Great food. Great company. And you don't have to be hungry to show up. Anyone can come. I want the whole community to show up and get to know your neighbors. Know the people in your community. The only way we're going to get to know each other is to say hi, shake hands, and sit down and break some bread together. That's how we build a community from the ground up. Now, after this weekend, 2 weeks later, December 6th, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. at the Logan County Fairgrounds, we will have the second Logan County Food Drive. We may need some volunteers to help with that. Many of the food pantries are extremely busy this time of the year getting everything ready for Christmas baskets and all kinds of stuff they do for the less fortunate in our communities. So we're not going to make them show up. We know they're already busy. So we're going to collect the food and then we will distribute it among the Logan County food banks just like we did the first time. So please show up if you would be interested in helping with the food drive. As a volunteer, reach out to me. I promise you we'll use you. We definitely need the help. Now, we have the warming shelter is active again. It's going to be at the same location it was last year, and that is the First Church of God here in Bellefontaine, 1000 East Brown Avenue. Now, there is plans for a new location. Hopefully, we'll know more about that after the start of next year. But for the time being, it's going to be here. Now, the intake is from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And this is going to be on nights where the weather is expected to be below 20 degrees. Now, because there is a daycare center at the hospital, people who use the shelter will be asked to leave at 5:30 in the morning. Now, I know last year arrangements were made to keep people warm until the library opened at 9 a.m., and I'm sure that's part of the plan this year. So we're not going to kick people out in the cold at 5:30. There will be some plans in place to keep people sheltered when the weather is just too darn cold. And we're looking for donations. I know winter clothing, cold weather gear, blankets, anything like that, even those hand warmers and gloves. If you would like to donate any of that, let me know, and I'll get you connected to the people running the cold weather shelter so they can get those supplies to the people that need them, and they can get those supplies to them for free. That's one thing I take very seriously. If clothing is donated to me personally, I want to make sure the people who need it get it for free. They shouldn't have to pay for something that was given. So now the animal shelter. I just spoke with the dog warden earlier today. A few days ago, we posted a video that shared a video that the dog warden shared showing the progress, and it's getting really, really close to being ready. Now, he expressed to me that they're hoping that the animal shelter will be operational early next year. They don't really know exactly when yet, but they're working their butts off, and it'll be open as soon as they can get it open for the public. But if you haven't seen the video, go online, check it out. The progress is great, and it's going to be a wonderful location for the dogs and cats of Logan County to get shelter and food and wait to be adopted. So it's a great thing. That's tax dollars well spent. It's those kinds of things that matter. So the topic, obviously, tonight, Titanic of the County. Mary Rutan Hospital. Now, some of that is a little tongue-in-cheek. The hospital is not really a ship, and Bellefontaine is not the North Atlantic Sea, but there's some leadership issues. I sincerely believe that, just like there were leadership issues on the Titanic. As I said before, the captain of the Titanic and those in charge ignored warnings and concerns and just kept plowing ahead. Eventually they hit an iceberg and way too many people were killed. Now, the issue with Mary Rutan Hospital and the billing problems is not one that's costing people lives. I want to make that very clear. But what it is highlighted is the fact that leadership is refusing to change course. They're refusing to acknowledge any failures on their part, which to me is just shocking. If you step back and look at the whole situation with Mary Rutan, since the Signal, Ohio story first broke, you've had a Democrat and Republican member of the General Assembly in Ohio put forth a bill to make it illegal in Ohio for hospitals to garnish wages. It also includes a provision to make it where interest is capped at 2%. This bill, make no mistake, Chad Ross, this bill is directly aimed at Mary Rutan Hospital and other hospitals that are doing the same thing they are doing. Now, during the meeting with Chad, it was interesting, and he was very friendly. The first thing he wanted to highlight to me during this meeting was how I had some things wrong. We didn't have the right board members listed publicly. And I explained to Chad that, well, there's no public list. So how would I know who to actually list as being board members of the hospital if there's no publicly available list. He stated he doesn't have to do that. Yeah, that's true. But if you want me to complain about me putting out bad information, then you need to give me the tools to put out the right information, which he did. And we were able to supply that list to you guys. And I suggested to the hospital that they need to put that on their website. The public should know who the board members are of the hospital. That's the least they can do, right? Now, what else did the hospital say? Chad explained that the attacks that were coming hurt their feelings because they love their community. And that I don't necessarily disagree with. We all have unique ways of showing love. But I explained to him that there's also hundreds upon hundreds of citizens who feel very bad based on what the hospital is doing. The garnishments, the 3,000 court cases since last year, these are fact. The hospital did not dispute those numbers. Now, what Chad did tell me later was that there's only 350 some active garnishment cases and 7,000, roughly, active payment arrangements. Now, this was presented to me as almost a badge of honor. Like, look, we haven't garnished 2,000 people or whatever. We've only garnished 450 or, whatever the number was. 7,000 people voluntarily entered into payment agreements. Well, Chad, I think we need to be a little more honest about that. There's 7,000 payment arrangements because they didn't want to have to get their wages garnished. When you paint people into a corner, they're going to do whatever they can to not have 25% of their paycheck taken from them. So to me, the 7,000 payment arrangements, that shows to me more negative aspects of Mary Rutan than positive. And we have seen so many situations where people have claimed their insurance isn't being billed correctly. And because of that, they're having to pay more than they should. Now look, I have no problem with people paying their bill. Lots of insurances have co-pays, and you will have to pay some out of pocket. That's to be expected. But if you're not billing the insurance and you're just passing that cost off to the patients, that's not right. Now, at the meeting, I had a gentleman come with me who had decades of experience in medical billing, and he was a great resource to have. But one of the most important parts of him being there was to explain to Chad and the two board members who were present that just this past summer, he noticed that with his son's medical bill, the insurance wasn't billed correctly. And he worked with the hospital to get them to bill the insurance the correct way, and the balance was much lower. Now, after this guy told the hospital this story, Chad kind of tried to gloss over it. And I said, hold up, I want to revisit this. Now, here's a guy that has 3 decades experience of medical billing, and he caught this error by your hospital. And because of his knowledge, he was able to correct it. But what about Mary Smith and John Smith, people who don't have any knowledge of medical billing? Would they even realize there's a problem? And I said, as a normal person here, I get a bill from the hospital, I'm going to naturally assume it's correct. One of the board members actually said, well, people need to check this on their own and make sure everything's done right. I'm sorry, no, that's not how it's supposed to work. The hospital has the responsibility to bill the insurance companies. If they're billing the insurance company wrong, they need to fix it. You shouldn't just pass that bill on to the people who came to your hospital and then tell them, well, if we didn't bill your insurance right, you need to figure it out. That's not how it's supposed to work. Now, at the end of the meeting, which let me just tell you how the meeting was, I had 6 pages of questions. And I didn't get to ask but maybe 3 or 4. Questions, not pages. The reason why, when we walked in, Chad had a prepared statement. He said he was going to read the statement, and he was hoping that statement would answer all my questions. Well, it didn't. It took almost an hour and 45 minutes to get through his statement. And didn't leave me any time to ask follow-up questions or anything else that was bothering me about what was said. So I knew then that this was just a filibuster, which for those of you who don't know what that is, it's an exercise of talking so long that the people who are bugging you or wanting to ask questions get bored and they just stop. It's a filibuster. Now, after the questions were kind of answered, we came to a conclusion that, hey, how about you host a public meeting? If you think the public needs to know how the billing process works, then maybe you should educate them. Host a public event. Allow the public to come in and learn about the billing process so they know how to double check the hospital's work. Even though I think that idea is crazy, hey, if that's your strategy as a hospital, then you've got to educate people. And the second thing I asked was that there needs to be a public event, a public setup, arrangement to where you have billing personnel on hand and folks that have issues with their bill, questions about their insurance being billed correctly or not billed correctly, can come in and have immediate conversations with these billing representatives. The answer I got was they already have that chance. They just got to call a number on their bill. Well, as we've heard from numerous people across the community, when you call that number, you don't get very good results. Sometimes the people you talk to aren't even American. And that was asked I did ask Chad about that. And he stated that all call services centers are based in the United States. Well, the gentleman I brought with me explained to him that every time he called, he got someone who sounded like they had an Indian accent. By the end, Chad said it's possible that the people they utilize for the call center could be outsourcing, and if they are, he will rectify it. I don't know how true that is, but time will tell. But what will also tell is what the hospital is going to do moving forward. Now, as we all saw last week, ABC6 and the amazing reporter, Lisa, did a great story on Mary Rutan Hospital. She just did a follow-up story a few days ago. And during this story, she spoke to the local state-level congressional representative about the hospital issues. And after the interview, this congressman reached out to Lisa and said, well, Chad Ross did get a hold of me, and said that everything they're doing is legal and above board and they're good to go. And he feels like he's picked on. It'd be more funny if these situations weren't so serious. Chad, you feel picked on? What about the family on a fixed income who's losing 25% of their pay because of your garnishments? What about the single mother trying to make a go at life and survive and keep her head above water, but she's losing 25% of her pay to garnishments? Don't talk to us about feeling picked on. Now later, the hospital spokesperson stated that Chad never said that. And I'm not going to call him a liar, but why would the congressman lie about that? I think Chad didn't expect the congressman to go public with that part of the story, and they had to quickly try to change course, change directions, steer the ship into a better way. But you know what, Chad? The best way to steer your ship is towards the community. And what I mean by that is work together with the people in your community. Figure out payment options that are affordable and that's going to bring money in for the hospital. It's real simple. Doing what you're doing is just, it's not working. These garnishments, these payment arrangements, all it's doing is building bad blood between the hospital and the public. And we've heard numerous stories lately of the census at the hospital being kind of low lately. Well, Mary Rutan and Chad, I think that's going to continue until you guys change course and start to do things the right way. Now, before we close, I do want to highlight a story. It's a gentleman who got sentenced to 30 years to life in prison just a few days ago. Jeremiah J.W. Monk. Now, I shared some information online, court documents, because what he did is just beyond comprehension. Abusing a child under the age of 6 months old sexually is just reprehensible. Selling these images online is just shocking. Involving an animal, absolutely reprehensible. I can't even wrap my mind around the sickness of this guy. The Ohio legislature, the General Assembly in Ohio, they need to seriously look at changing sentencing guidelines for crimes like this. There's no rehabilitation if this is what you think is okay. Jeremiah J.W. Monk should have been eligible for the death penalty because what he did has sentenced this poor victim to a lifetime of trauma that they will never truly overcome. Now, the road to reform, as we close today, I want us to know, I want you all to know that what we're already doing together is called reform. It doesn't start up top in Washington, D.C. or Columbus, Ohio. It starts right here on the ground floor. This is where we reform our neighborhoods and our communities. And it's by getting together. Just like we did at the food drive November 1st and just like we will do at the soup kitchen November 22nd. It's called getting together, working together for a common purpose. The food drive has nothing to do with politics, color of your skin, or your sexual orientation. It has nothing to do with any of that, just like the soup kitchen event. That doesn't matter. We need to focus more on what unites us than spending so much time focusing on what may divide us. Let us remember that when this country was founded, back in 1776, when they were writing the Declaration of Independence, check your history. There was a lot of lively debates in there. They weren't just going in there and just, having a good time and coming up with a document. They had to fight it out. They had to negotiate. And they did. And I think if they could look at where we are today, I don't think they'd be very impressed. We fight over the stupidest things, and we ignore our fellow citizens. Well, that stops, and we're stopping it right here. And I thank you for that. Let's keep it up. So I want all of you to have a great weekend, or a great week. I'm sorry, it's only Wednesday. And I hope to see many of you Saturday at one of those 3 locations. And I especially hope to see you in 2 more weeks at the food drive. But until then, remember, take care of yourselves.